Hello and good morning. Welcome to episode 76 of the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and I'll be your host today. Welcome. If you are new, welcome. Thank you for coming and checking me out, and I hope you like what you see. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you are a returning viewer, you'll know that I am back in my usual location. I'm back home in Bahrain, which is where I live at the moment with my husband and our 2 cats. And yeah, I'm filming from my craft room. So for those of you who are new to the podcast, I was recently in the UK for the last 4 or 5 weeks over the summer. See family, see friends. I had a couple of weddings to go to over the summer, one at either end. So I decided to just stay in between, and as it turned out, it was a very, very busy few weeks. There was a lot of stuff that we did. It's possibly been one of the busiest summers that I've had in a very long time. But it was a very good trip, and I'll talk more about that later. But yeah, I did take a little bit of a break from podcasting last week. I was just incredibly tired. I got back on Wednesday last week, which is my usual podcasting day. And there were issues with my flights and with my bags and all sorts of stuff. So as it turned out, it was a very good idea that I didn't record last week. And Hugo is just coming to say hi, I think. He's heard me talking to myself, and now he's popping by to say hi. I know a lot of you have missed him. A lot of the regulars who watch the podcast have said over the last few weeks how much they've missed seeing the boys. And here he is. Here's Hugo. Say hi. Everyone's missing you. Yeah, the little fluffy belly. Hey, he's not going to be happy with me in a minute. So yeah, I have two Scottish fold cats, for those of you who are new. This is one of them, this is Hugo, and the other one is Derek. Derek is not a fan of the podcast. He is not a fan of being on camera. But I do have some footage that I've taken of the boys over the last day or so that I will include either at some point during the podcast or at the very end. So stay tuned for those. Yeah, so places where you can find me, that might be a good thing to start with. Places where you can find me online, you can find me as Mina86 on Ravelry. Yes, we speak again. You can find me as Mina Phillip on Instagram. You can find me at you can find the podcast group on Ravelry as the Knitting Expat Podcast, and you can find show notes for this and all previous episodes at knittingexpat.wordpress.com. I also do episode threads every week in the Ravelry group, which has a lot of the same links and information as the show notes. The show notes just has more details on the projects that I'm showing you, or that I show and talk about each week as well. I try and link things in both places as much as possible to make it easy for everybody. But I think the only other thing I want to say before I sort of really jump into the episode properly is, well, for those of you who follow me on Instagram will already know the news, but Peri and I have been keeping a bit of a secret over the last few months, and that I'm pregnant, which is great. It's something that we've both been wanting for a long time. We've always talked about having kids. In fact, it was a topic of discussion on our very first date, was whether or not we wanted children and when we wanted children and stuff like that, because I realised that was a very important thing to me, and I wanted to make sure whoever I ended up with in the future was someone who had similar ideas in terms of when we would have children and stuff like that. So that was nice. So where was I going with that? Yeah, so basically I found out I was pregnant about 3-4 weeks before I left to go back to the UK. So around mid-June it was when I found out. And yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, but it was a surprise in that I was pretty sure I wasn't pregnant that month, but not a surprise in that obviously we'd been trying, so it wasn't a surprise in that sense. I was just surprised that I was pregnant, and that was all. So because I didn't think it would. Anyway, I'll talk more about that stuff at the end. If you're interested, you can stick around, otherwise I'm not going to bore you with that now. Right, so let's jump in, shall we? Coupon codes. We have a bunch of coupon codes in the episode thread. I will link them in the show notes and in the episode thread, so you'll have the codes will be there, along with the shop names and links to the shops themselves and stuff like that, so you can find everything nicely and easily. I'm not going to say them all every week just because it takes up so much time, and he goes back to his spotlight stealing ways. Okay, alright, he's off. Alright, yes, so like I said, I will put all the coupon codes in the episode threads. Then let's move on to finished objects. If Hugo will stop putting his tail in front of the camera. Yes? You want to help me? You want to help show off the finished objects? This is the most attentive he has been since I've been back. Like, he is generally not like this. I think it's because he realizes he's suddenly not the sole focus of my attention. Hey? Hey? Not sure you can see this, but he's giving me face licks, which probably shouldn't let him do that. But anyway, hey. All right, you're gonna get off the table because you're well, you've already covered me in hair, but you're gonna be in the way. All right, well, I'll leave you there because I know people want to see. So the first finished object I'm going to show you is actually a spinning finished object. If you remember the last time I recorded, the week before last, I showed you some of the fibre that I'd spun up from with the hand spinner that I'd gotten at Fibre East, and apparently I taste good today. And yeah, so I finished plying the second half as well. So I plied half of it. So this is the first half I'd spun up. Hugo's just like, what is this? This is the first half that I'd spun up, and it was quite thick and thin, and it wasn't particularly even or anything like that. So I plied it back on itself using a Andean ply bracelet, I think is what it's called. Oh jeez, see if I can show this to you without Hugo getting in the way. All right, you're not helping, Hugo. There we go. So you guys can see that there. It's all a bit thick and thin, not particularly even, but yeah, I was pretty happy with that as my first attempt. And then the second half, I kind of got a bit of a hang got the hang of drafting with the hand spinner, or more so than I had previously. Hugo, what are you doing? You're just going back and forth, and you're waving your tail in the camera. Okay, I'm gonna have to move you in a second because this is far too distracting. And so this is the second attempt, which is much more consistent. It's definitely finer than the first attempt. Let me grab the first one to show you side by side. So you can see there's less of these thick bits. In this one, overall the singles on this mini skein were a lot more consistent. There were a lot less thick and thin spots. I mean, there were definitely still some really thin spots and some thicker spots, but overall it was much more even. And as it turns out, this one has less fibre by weight in it, but it is more yardage, so I know I've spun finer with this one than with this one. So I think this one had roughly 15 meters from about 9 grams, and this one was about 7-ish grams, and there was about 20 meters. So definitely spun finer with that one, which was nice. Okay, Hugo, you're gonna have to. I've got my camera balanced on a bunch of boxes, and now he's gonna try and start nibbling the boxes, and I'm like, no, cannot be having that. Right, so next finished object that I have to show you. Now we're all on to knitting stuff. So the next finished object I have to show you is a pair of socks. I did post these, not finished, but I did post some pictures of these in progress on Instagram, mostly because of the yarn and the way the yarn was knitting up. But it is actually a new design of mine that I haven't released yet, but it will be coming out pretty soon, I think, probably by the end of September at the very latest. But it's this pair of socks, and the yarn is black Trillium fibres on their pebble sock base. It's 100% superwash merino, but it's quite a high twist, and it's in the Hedwig colourway. Believe it or not, this is a single skein of yarn, and I am actually somewhat impressed actually by how equally uneven the skein is. One half of the skein was very, very less speckled, I guess, less dyed, and the other half was a lot more heavily speckled dyed. I mean, on this one you can see that it's a lot heavier at the top and it's gradually getting less dense with the speckling towards the toes, but on this half it's pretty even throughout. Like, there's not much change. Usually with hand dyed skeins, and I've talked about this before, because I knit my socks 2 at a time, I split the skein in half and I knit one basically from one end of the skein towards the middle and the other one from one end of the skein towards the middle. That's just how it works out, the way I wind my yarn. So this started from one end and this started from the other, working towards both of these would be close to the middle. I mean, there's still quite a bit of yarn left over, so I didn't quite get to the middle of the skein. But usually with sort of hand dyed yarns, as I said, one half of the skein is, generally speaking, depending on the dye method that the dyer has used, and I don't know which method it is that causes this. Sorry, I've got fluff in my face from Hugo. I'm not sure which method it is that causes it, because I'm not a dyer myself, but I know it happens a lot, so it must be from a specific dye method, where half of the skein tends to get more color saturation than the other half of the skein. It doesn't bother me. I am not that OCD about my socks. I am not that bothered about them being like completely matchy or anything like that. That sort of thing really doesn't bug me. I know it does bug a lot of people, and when I did post a picture of these on Instagram, a lot of people said they couldn't knit socks out of that because of the difference and all of that. Really doesn't bother me. But this is the first time that I've knit a pair of socks with this stark of a contrast, where, you know, the lighter one hasn't ended up being slightly more saturated towards the end. Usually what happens is, like I said, one end is more saturated than the other, but they gradually start to look more similar towards the toes, or towards the end of the sock, depending which way you're knitting them. This is the first time it's been such a drastic difference all the way throughout, which actually doesn't bother me, considering this is a design. It is quite nice because then it shows what the design looks like on a lighter coloured yarn, or less speckled variegated yarn compared to a more speckled variegated within the same skein, which is quite handy. See if I can show you up close. It's a textured stitch. It's not a complicated one. It's essentially, it's a kind of ribbing, but they are different for each leg. It's slightly different, and it is a Harry Potter themed sock project, so that should be quite fun. And they are super simple, super easy, and you can just as easily do the patterning on the back as well as the front. As you guys know by now, if you are a regular viewer, I don't do any patterning on the back of my socks, generally speaking. I do very, very occasionally do it, but usually for my design socks I don't, just so that people can see the difference between how the yarn knits up in stockinette versus the pattern. Yeah, so that's those. I knit these on 2.25mm needles, US ones. Yeah, I'll give you all the other information. The pattern, like I said, should be out soon. I do have a matching hat pattern that I'm working on at the moment, so I'm kind of waiting for that one to be finished, and then I can release them together. It's kind of the idea I had. So the sock pattern's ready, it's just the hat pattern. Right, so what should I talk about next? Next, I have a stack of finished objects for the baby. Baby's really got its own little stack of knitwear. I've been working on knitting projects for the baby pretty much since I found out I was pregnant. And you know what, may as well go in chronological order, what I knit first and stuff like that. So the very first thing I knit for the baby when I found out I was pregnant was this baby blanket. So there's no specific pattern for this. I just researched on Ravelry. I looked for a garter or just a chevron baby blanket, and I found one which was in stockinette, and I just did it in garter stitch. And can't remember who it was by, what it was. It used worsted weight yarn, that's all I know. And I had a bunch of Knit Picks Comfy Fingering in stash, and I wanted to use that because it's really fun, sort of rainbowy colours, and I just held it double. And I knit one stripe to see how far I could get, and then basically before the yarn ran out, or just as the yarn was running out, before I had enough left to do another garter ridge, I switched colours and then knit the same number of rows, blah blah blah. And this is 6 stripes, and I knit 1 per day. What I did, that was like sort of my target. I knit this during, I mean, I was really lucky. I didn't have particularly horrendous morning sickness. I wasn't throwing up or anything. I haven't thrown up once, which is great. But I did have some really bad nausea and headaches at the very beginning. That one week when, if you will remember, back in June when I recorded and I wasn't feeling particularly great and Perry was in Tel Aviv, he was in Israel, he was away. That was my worst week in terms of morning sickness. And this was basically the only thing I knit on that week. And I finished it in that week. But it was basically, the only reason I could knit on this was because I could basically do it with my eyes shut. I didn't have to look at it. And I was just watching TV and knitting on this, and I was virtually horizontal. I couldn't sit up straight. I could barely stand for longer than like 10-15 minutes. The smell of food and anything cooking was making me feel really ill. It was not a good week. I actually lost weight that week because I was just so put off food. And it was difficult because I was on my own as well. Perry wasn't around. So I didn't have anyone to like help with cooking and stuff like that. So that was a tough week, and this was the one project that got me through that. And we hadn't told anyone else yet at that point, like not even our families, that I was pregnant yet. So poor Perry's away in another country, and I'm just messaging him about how crap I feel and how ill I feel and stuff like that. So he felt quite bad about having left me behind, but obviously neither of us could do anything about it. He had to go, and it's totally fine. Like I wasn't going to make him miss the trip. But anyway, actually, as it happened, my morning sickness kicked in. It was like 2 days after he'd left, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Yeah, so, and thankfully that was the worst week. He was back after that and helping out a lot more with cooking and stuff, so it helped, and I wasn't feeling so sick after that week anyway. So I've got a little baby blanket for when baby gets here. He's got his first one, he or she. We don't actually know if it's a boy or girl yet, but we will be finding out. So yeah, it's just cotton. I think it's a cotton acrylic blend, but it's mostly cotton. It's really soft, really comfy, and just be a fun thing either for in the pram or in the cot or on the floor, whatever. Really nice and easy baby blanket. Then the next thing I knit for the baby, I actually knit both of these the day that I left to go to London. Before I left, I filmed in the morning, and then whilst I was editing and uploading, I knit these two projects. And it's this cute little baby hat out of, it was Malabrigo worsted. In the Wales Road colourway, I think it was. I knit Perry a little speaker cover out of this, and I think this is the citrus hat pattern. I can't remember exactly what pattern I used, but it's just a simple baby hat. It was a free pattern on Ravelry. Might help if I do that. It's just a little sort of textured, just a rib pattern really. And I also knit a pair of baby socks out of rainbow yarn because of course. How cute is that? So that's just super adorable, and little teeny tiny baby socks. And you may recognize the yarn. This is the Turtle Pearl Turtle Toes, striped turtle toes, sorry, in the On colourway, which I knit one of my socks from the Beyond Vanilla Socks Part 3 collection. So yeah, so that's those. And they're really quick. Like I said, I knit these both on the day that I was leaving, and I had them finished before I left. Then the next thing I knit for the baby, a little baby hat, which is really, really cute and adorable. And this actually turned out bigger than the other one, even though this is supposedly newborn size. I think this is more like a 2-3 month size. I guess it depends on the baby as well, but this is out of Koigu KPPM. I knit those shorty socks, which I ended up giving to my mum, but out of this yarn, but I had a ton left over, so I thought I would turn it into a baby hat. And it's showing up a little bit pink around here, but it's more of an orange colour in real life. And then I had quite a bit left over, so I also made some baby socks. And if you remember me saying one skein was slightly more saturated than the other, so this was the more saturated skein, this was the less saturated one, but I mean they're still matching. And yeah, and this was really fun. I actually knit this on whilst watching the opening ceremony for the Olympics, which was quite fun. And these I knit we're out at a pub lunch with friends one day, and I was knitting on these at the pub, so that was also quite fun. then what else? Oh, and then if you may or may not remember me, if you watched the Helsinki vlog that I posted, you may or may not recall there was a bit where we were sat in a coffee shop and I'm just knitting away, and it's like fast forward, but I was actually knitting on this little baby cardigan. This is the garter yoke baby cardigan. I can't remember who it's by, but I'll hopefully have it linked in the show notes. And I'll show you up close there. So it's got the garter stitch on the yoke, and then it's stockinette in the sleeves and the body, and then it's garter stitch details on the collar, button band and hem and cuffs. I did this in 2 colours because I didn't think I had enough of the main colour for the whole project, and plus I had the matching yellow for to go with the speckled anyway, and I wanted to use them together in a project, and I couldn't think of what else to use them for. I had tried to use this yarn in a couple of other projects and it just wasn't working. So I was like, that's it. I don't care if this is a really luxurious base. It is. It's merino cashmere silk, I think, by Mrs. Crosby. Mrs. Crosby Knits and Mrs. Crosby Yarns. And I think the colourway was Northern Perula. I can't remember. But it's so soft, and I was like, it'd be just so squishy for baby. And the yellow is a Shibui yarn. I can't remember the colourway name. I think it was like gold or something. And yeah, and the only thing I did differently was, like I said, I used the contrast colour for the garter stitch trim, but I also didn't do a traditional button band. I didn't put buttonholes in. I kind of feel like, obviously it depends where we're going to be. We have no idea where we're going to be when we have the baby. People keep asking us where we're going to have the baby, and I'm just like, I don't know, wherever we end up living because we are moving. For those of you who have been watching for a while will know that Perry quit his job recently and is looking for a new job, and the only thing we do know is that we probably won't be in Bahrain. More than likely it won't be here, so we just don't know where we're going at the moment. So people keep asking, and I'm like, I genuinely don't know what to tell them because I have no clue myself. But for now, I'm assuming the things that I am knitting for the baby are assuming we're staying in a hot climate. If we go somewhere colder, then obviously I can make colder things, but for now this is what I'm working on. And I kept the sleeves kind of short because I kind of imagined this would just be something to put on as like an outer layer if we're going to the mall or somewhere where it's going to be cold, but still indoors sort of thing. So yeah, so that was a really fun and quick knit. So like I said, I knit most of this in Helsinki and then just finished off the sleeves when I got back. And then the last thing that I've finished, last baby knit that I finished, is another cardigan. And this one, the pattern originally wasn't for a cardigan, it was for a just a sweater, and it's the Flax Light pattern by Tin Can Knit. So it's their really famous flax sweater, but out of fingering weight yarn. And they released this pattern last year around Christmas time, I think it was, as a free pattern. And so I knit the baby version. This is the smallest size, the 0 to 6 month size. And I steeked it. I added some stitches and I steeked it, and I filmed the whole process, and I talk a bit more about what modifications I made to the pattern. I made the sleeves and the body a little bit longer so the baby can wear it for longer. And yeah, so I steeked it. So this is what the finished product looks like. And it's all been blocked now. And you can see this is what the steek looks like on the inside. I did use a contrasting yarn, but it's not drastically contrasting, so it's just a more neutral sort of colour. And I did tack it down. I'm not sure how well you can see that there. So I did tack it down every couple of stitches. I just sort of whip stitched it down to the back of the garment there. And yeah, it was actually really easy. This is the first time I steeked a finished sort of garment. I did actually practice first because I didn't want to, I had never done a crochet steek before, so I didn't want to, I wanted to get familiar with the technique before doing it. So I knit a little swatch in the round, and this is some of the yarn that I used for a couple of patterns I designed for Rib magazine, which is really exciting. The thing was, I'd already sent off the samples to Devon, and I realised I'd forgotten to measure the gauge on the patterns. So I knit up a little swatch to to measure the gauge, and I thought it was a good opportunity to practice my steeking. So I did a little crochet steek on this one, opened it up, and perfectly fine. It worked out perfectly. So so that gave me the confidence and got me familiar with how to do it, to then do it on the project. So if you're worried, just try on a little swatch. You can even do it on a flat swatch. You can steek a flat swatch and split it in two. It doesn't have to be one that's knit in the round. I only did mine in the round because my projects were knit in the round, so I had to measure the gauge in the round. So that was that really. So that's all the baby knits I've knit so far. I do have plans for a whole bunch of other baby knits. If you watched the episode that I posted, I think it was episode 74, which was the yarn haul, most of the heavier weight yarns from that were yarns that I got for baby things. Basically everything I bought at Loop and I knit on that trip were all for baby projects. So all the things that I couldn't tell you about, that's what those were. And most of those are projects I'm planning to knit for the baby for next winter, so next sort of November, December time, because I imagine wherever we end up, if we're not back in the UK, we will probably be going back to the UK for Christmas. So it's a safe bet to make stuff for the baby in that sort of age range for when it's that age, for around Christmas time, because we know that more than likely, like 90% chance that we'll be back in the UK for Christmas to spend with the family's first Christmas with the baby, with family. So that's pretty much a given. So that's kind of my plan for those at the moment until we know where we're going, because I don't really want to knit too much for the baby at the moment for when it's first born, just in case we end up somewhere, you know, if we stay in the Middle East or stay somewhere where it's really hot, then it's not really going to need much in the way of knitwear when it's first born, because baby's due in February, and so we would be heading into the hotter months of the year when it's first born, so it wouldn't really be necessary to have much in the way of hand knit items, especially not woolen hand knit items necessarily at that time. But if we do end up going somewhere colder, like if we end up going back to the UK or somewhere else with a more wintry climate, shall we say, then yeah, I'd probably make a few more hand knit things for when it's first born. But for now, next winter seems to be the sort of time frame for things I want to make for it. Anyway, I'm just babbling now. That's all I have to show you for finished objects. I'm going to take a quick break here and I'll be back with you in a second to talk about works in progress and acquisitions. So works in progress, I don't actually have that much to show you. Today is the last day of August, it's the 31st, so I don't really have that much to show you, because as you guys know, I like to try and clear my needles at the end of each month to make way for new projects at the knit for the next month. But one thing I did do, and again you may have seen the previous stage of this on Instagram, was I blocked out all the pinwheel blocks that I'd done over the summer and ones I hadn't blocked from before, and got to seaming them all together. So my pinwheel blanket is starting to come together as an actual blanket, and I'm going to try and roll back so I can show you what this looks like. Don't know how much you can see. It is 3 blocks deep and it's 5 blocks wide. So these from here to here, these 6 blocks are all yarns that I've knit with so far this year, and these 9 blocks are all minis from friends, mostly actually minis from my friend Josie in Dubai and a few others in there. So that's where I'm at. It is currently measuring in at around 120 lengthwise along there centimeters by about 73-ish centimeters along this way. So the blocks are working out to be around, once seamed, they seem to be around 23-24 centimeters in length after seaming. Ooh. Hey, Hugo's come back. We'll see if he jumps up again. And this is what it looks like on the wrong side. So you can see the seams aren't too bulky, they're not too obtrusive, they're pretty inconspicuous. And from the front, if I show you up close, you'll see that the seaming isn't too obvious from the front. It is a pretty invisible seam. I mean, I've used quite a neutral grey colour. When you look at it, you can see the little horizontal grey bars going across. Let me see if I can find a better place where you can see it more clearly, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Here, you can probably see that there. See those little grey bars going across. I mean, I don't find that particularly annoying or obtrusive, but or you know, unlikable or ugly or anything like that. I know some people are picking up stitches around their blocks, knitting a small border and then seaming them together. That is also fine if that's what you want to do. If you want to knit a border, then by all means knit a border. This is just how I wanted to do it. It's a pretty decent size already, to be honest. I'm probably gonna make this quite, this one's probably gonna end up being quite big. I'm not sure quite how big this one will be, but I'm looking forward to it. And the good thing about doing it with the crochet method, seaming the blocks together, is, you know, if something happens and you want to take a block out, it's quite easy to just take one block out and put another one in. Theoretically, I mean, I've not tried it, but you probably could, quite simply. That's the only sort of work in progress at the moment that I have to show you. I am working on a new design project, which currently looks like this. That's all I'm going to show you for now. It's a work in progress. I'm not ready to share it yet, and I'm not sure when I will share it, in which sort of stage of completion I will share it. I will say it's a shawl. So I had hoped, this was one of the projects I had hoped to have knit over the summer, but I overestimated how much energy I was going to have, and also how busy I was going to be. I was a lot busier than I'd anticipated, and I was a lot more tired than I'd expected. So yeah, this didn't get done, but I'm working on it now, so we'll see how far I get and how soon that'll be ready. So that's it for works in progress. I don't really have anything else to share from that side. I have been doing a bit of sewing lately. I've sort of just started up with my sewing machine again. It's been months since I've been sewing. I had planned to get a bunch of sewing done in June, but after finding out I was pregnant and not feeling well and stuff, I just didn't have the energy for it. I could barely do much at that point. I was pretty tired. I mean, to be honest, it was quite difficult over the summer to keep up with all the knitting that I normally do. Not just because I was busy, but also because I didn't have the energy for it as much as I used to. So you may or may not have noticed I wasn't working on as many projects or finishing as many things as I normally do. But I realized that's kind of why I pared down the number of projects I was working on, because I realized, not because I didn't want you guys to know or anything like that, obviously I do, and I'm sharing it now, but we weren't ready to share the news at that point. And I knew that if my, how should I put it without it sounding terrible, if my knitting had slowed down to the point that it was noticeable by other people, then someone would probably guess, or someone would say something, and I didn't really want the news to get out like that. And a few people have commented saying that, oh, they had a feeling or whatever, and I'm kind of glad no one had said anything, just because I didn't want to ruin the surprise. And so yeah, and it was also true that we were incredibly busy, and usually when I am that busy, I do pare down the number of projects I work on, so I don't feel so anxious. But to be honest, like at the time, there were times when I was only working on 1 or 2 things at a time, and one of them being the blanket. So but anyway, I still actually, when I got back and looked back over what I did finish and knit over the summer, it was still more than I'd expected. So it wasn't too bad. At the end, it wasn't as unproductive as I felt it was. Because I had 2 big shawl projects, which were both design projects that I had wanted to do, and I didn't get either of those done, I kind of felt like I didn't get as much done as I would have liked. I think that's more of a personal thing than it's more about what I feel, how I feel about myself, rather than worrying necessarily what other people think, I think. I hope that all came across okay. It didn't sound too weird. Okay, so I have a few things to show you in acquisitions. So some of you may remember that a while back I asked you guys to fill in a survey for some friends of mine who were thinking about opening up a yarn shop in Dubai, both online and brick and mortar shop. And so many of you responded and gave some really interesting and valuable feedback from my friends, and I really, really appreciated it. And I did host a giveaway, and my friend Josie had said, who was one of my friends, who'd asked me to like post about this survey, and she she's also a yarn dyer. She dyes for Dubai Knits. I've talked about her yarn before. She'd offered to send some yarn for prizes, as a prize to give away, which I'd said I was going to do, and I did do, but her yarn didn't get here in time. So I did the giveaway. I used some yarn that I had set aside for a prize anyway, and what I said to her was that when her yarn finally showed up, I would use it for a different giveaway. So this is the yarn that this is what Josie said. She sent a skein of her Anya base, which is 100 grams, 425 yards fingering, 80 superwash merino, 20 nylon. It's in the Dark Intentions colorway, and I think this is a new base for her. It's a really nice sort of plump fingering weight, but still with really good yardage, and it's really, really lovely, soft yarn. I really love the colors in this one. And if she hadn't sent this specifically for a giveaway, I'd be very tempted to keep it. And she also sent this pack of mini skeins. Really sort of lovely speckled colorways in there, and there are 20 grams each, so there's 100 grams here in total. It's 85 yards per mini, 100% superwash merino. She calls it her Dubai Knits Moonbeams, and this is on the Beachcomber base. Beachcomber colorway or range of colors. So I thought those were really fun as well. So these are going to go together as part of a really special prize package coming later, which I will talk more about probably in a week or two. The next thing that came in the mail, these were both waiting for me when I got back. Perry got back to Bahrain a couple of weeks before me, and he went to the post office and picked these up. I'd also been in touch with Charan Sasha. If you may have heard of him before on a couple of other podcasts. I remember Andy from Andre C Knits had definitely mentioned his products before, but he is he does pottery. He does handcrafted pottery, and he works with clay, and he has started a line of, is this his card? If it will focus. He has started a line of, or he has been working on a line of knitting related pottery. So there's a picture of some of his knitting related products, and he contacted me to see if he could send me some of his knitted dishes, like these ones at the bottom here, to review and to use as giveaways. So he did. He sent me 3, which was way more than I expected: a green, a yellow, and a blue one. That's what they look like. They look like little knit stitches, and how adorable is that? I think that's so cute, and they're so adorable. So he said that I could keep one and use the other 2 for giveaways. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. I know the blue one is going to go with the Dubai Knits yarns and a few other goodies for a giveaway later. Then I'm not sure which one I'm going to keep and which one I'm going to give away. I may keep the yellow one because I quite like yellow, but I'm not sure what the green one is going to be a giveaway for, but giveaway it shall be. So that's really interesting. He's based out of the US, so definitely check him out if you are interested. And thank you so much, Sharon. That was really, really sweet of you to send those across. And the only other thing I wanted to show you in acquisitions for something else I got in the UK, and I just forgot to show in the last podcast that I did. I went to Tiger, which is actually one of, I don't know how to call it, it's like a mix between IKEA and like a pound shop, sort of like pretty cheap and cheerful products, but quite good for DIY, lots of little knickknacks and things, and it's actually really good for like kids crafts and stuff like that. Occasionally they have some things in there that are semi sort of useful for like knitting and stuff like that, and I know they do some yarn and things as well. I've never seen the sock yarn that they do, but I've seen there are other sort of acrylic yarns that they have, and someone actually sent me some of their sock yarn, which I showed on the podcast last time, which I'm looking forward to trying out. But one thing that I saw, they had these vitamin organizers in the store, and I thought these would be really good for stitch markers. This is what they look like. So they have 3 compartments, so you can see in the back there, that will focus. They have 3 main compartments, and then from the top here, you know what, probably best if I just open one. Okay, there you go. And then you just turn to the opening and you can get what you need out of it, and then you can just rotate it round to the next and then to the next. And they were really cheap. I think they were like only like £1 or £2 each. So I picked up a couple of those, one for myself and one to give away, or I might give both away, although this one's out of the packaging now. I think I bought the purple one for myself initially, but we'll see. But definitely be using this one for a giveaway. So yeah, I just thought that was quite handy. And if you are in the UK or elsewhere, I know they're all over Europe, so if you are somewhere with a tiger, definitely go and check it out. They do have these in store at the moment. I know their products and their stock is generally on rotation. They don't always have the same things in store, so definitely check them out if they still have that. Quite handy, and like I said, relatively affordable for a sort of stitch marker or notions organizer. The only thing I wouldn't put in those are needles, because I think they'd be a bit difficult to get out, as in like tapestry needles. Oh, the only other acquisition I have to show you, which isn't really knitting related at all, but I couldn't wear this or wear these at all while I was in the UK because we hadn't announced it yet to anybody, but my mum got me these. And if you're in the UK, or if you're in London specifically, you've probably seen people wearing these on the underground when they're pregnant. These little baby on board signs. Typically it's quite hard, especially on busy tubes and on the underground trains and stuff, to get a seat. And sometimes if it's not obvious you're pregnant, or people aren't paying attention, or they don't want to assume that you're pregnant and make a mistake or anything. A lot of women who are pregnant now will wear one of these badges on their outfits to indicate that they're pregnant, so someone will stand up and offer them their seat or something. Anyway, I was joking with Perry one day. We went out, it was just the two of us, that into London, and it was really busy and stuff. I was joking with Perry saying that I ought to get one of these badges so I can get a seat on trains. Not really being that serious about it. And then got home, and a couple of days later my mum had already ordered me these, and I hadn't mentioned that to her. She'd already ordered them before. So that was really sweet. I'm just really sad I never got a chance to use them in the UK, but I'm sure I'll have opportunity to use them soon. Right, so we have Knitalongs and giveaway news next. I just realised I'm missing something on that list, but that's fine. Okay, I have a bunch of prizes I want to show today. So we have the sweater, first off, we have the sweater knit along that's going on from now until the end of the year, although I am thinking about ending that knit along, I'm thinking about ending that knit along at the end of the month, at the end of September, because that's when I'm doing the next prize drawing, but also because I really don't know how. You see Hugo there, he's playing with my blocking wires again. What are you doing? Stop it. Anyway, a little bit of entertainment for you guys. I'm thinking about stopping it then, just because this last half of the year is going to be, last quarter of the year, it's going to be pretty manic for us. We're going to be moving, fingers crossed we're going to be moving. I'm going to be going back to the UK for another wedding in November. And then I'm going to be in Dubai for a week in October, and it's just going to be a lot going on. And I have a couple of other knit-alongs that I want to host, which will be probably the last couple of knit-alongs that I do, like sort of new that haven't started yet, knit-alongs for the rest of this year. So I think I'm probably going to end the sweater knit-along at the end of September, just because, like I said, I have a lot on my plate coming up, and I just don't want to have too many things going on. So that's my thinking at the moment. I'll announce it in a couple of weeks if I decide that's definitely what I'm going to do. But for now, we currently have the Summer Blanket Blitz knit along going on in the group. That's co-hosted between myself and Shannon of the Etc. podcast, who's recently back from her vacation. I haven't caught up with her latest podcast episode, but I'm looking forward to doing that later today. And like I mentioned before, I was going to be doing some mini skein kits sets as prizes, and I put a few things together, so I wanted to show you the prizes that I'm going to be giving away, and I know Shannon's going to be doing some giveaways as well. And I also have a donation of some handspun as prizes as well, and there's pictures of that handspun in the thread as well in the group. So one prize is going to be these two packs of mini skeins. So there's 24 mini skeins in total, and these are all at least 5 grams each. So more than enough if you're doing the pinwheel scrap blanket, generally more than enough if you are doing a mitered square blanket, depending on the size of your squares. My mitered square blanket was 49 stitches on 3mm needles,
and this was enough. 5 grams was more than enough to do a square on my blanket. So that's going to be one prize, these 2 bundles together. Second prize is going to be these 2 bundles together. Again, these are also 24 mini skeins, so this one's, the packaging is kind of obscuring the colours a bit, but these are all also minimum 5 grams. I think a lot of these are actually quite a bit more than 5 grams, but anyway, so they're minimum 5 grams each in these ones as well. And then I have 2 more bags of like scraps, as it were, and so these are all less than 5 grams. So most of these are around 3 to 4 grams each. Some might be a little bit less than that, but for the most part they're about 3 or 4 grams each, just under the 5 gram mark. But each bag is around 100 grams of scraps. So if you want to do Franken socks, or if you're doing one of those crochet blankets where you just crochet your mini until you run out and then you add the next one, or if you want to do Franken squares for your mini skein blankets or whatever. So these 2 will also be individual prizes as well. So there's 4 prizes total that I'll be giving away. I'll be doing 2 from Instagram, so one of these and one of the mini skein sets from Instagram pictures, and the other 2 will be from the thread in the group. And then the hand spun prizes will be drawn from the thread in the group as well. So that knit along ends today. It ends at the end of today, so I'm going to close the threads tomorrow, and then I will draw prizes, and I'll talk about how I'm going to announce those in a second. And the next knit along that we have going on in the group is the Sugar Plum Shawl knit along, which is for the Sugar Plum Shawl pattern that I designed and published at the beginning of the summer. So I had a knit along running for that until today as well. Today it also ends. So again, I will close the thread for that tomorrow. So that gives you until the end of today to enter. If you're watching this today, I'll give you a little reminder. And I have 2 prizes for that knit along. One prize, I've already shown you these, but I've added a few little bits to them. This is lovely yarn from Ball of Love Yarns, and a project bag from Molly Klein Designs. I've also added in a little notebook and some sweets and tea and other little goodies in there. And then we also have a prize from Francophie Knits, some of her hand dyed yarn. This is her Printemps colorway, sorry, French really bad, on her chaussette base, which is a superwash merino nylon. And again, I've also added a notebook and some tea and sweets. And actually the 2 notebooks I've put in these are notebooks I got from the Museum of Art in Doha in Qatar, and I have to say that museum is probably one of my favorite museums, architecturally speaking. It is stunning. That building is beautiful. And I really like these notebooks. They've got quite a sort of got a nice pattern on the front, and they're just plain notebooks. A bit of a tangent there. But so yeah, so what I'm going to do is, because both of these knit alongs end today, and like I said, I didn't want to close the threads early, so what I'm going to do is close them tomorrow, and hopefully either tomorrow or the day after I will film a small or a shorter prize giveaway video. Does that make sense? I'm basically going to do a separate video announcing the prize winners, because I realise there's quite a lot of prize winners to go through, and I don't want it to get too long and boring on the podcast for next week. So I'm just going to do a separate video to announce the prize winners for those 2 knit alongs. Because yeah, there's going to be at least like 5, 6, 7 prizes to announce. So I don't want to do that on the podcast and bore everybody. Then the next knit along we currently have going on is the Beyond Vanilla Socks knit along, and so this is because I released my Beyond Vanilla Socks pattern last week on Monday. So thank you so much to everybody who's been so amazing. It has been honestly, it has blown me away. The response has been so incredible. I was not expecting it to be quite as big as it was. So thank you so much everybody for that. It's really surprised me, I think, and I've really been enjoying seeing everyone's entries so far in the finished objects thread and on the chatter thread in the group, and it's just been really fun. And I'm really sorry that I'm not super chatty in the group at the moment. It's just, like I said, I've got so much going on. It's taken a few days to get back to a routine since getting back, and I'm only just sort of starting to feel like I'm getting back into the swing of things. Yeah, and I still feel like I'm struggling to catch up. So but I wanted to show you the prices. I know I mentioned I released a separate video for that, for those patterns being released, and I didn't have the prices with me to show you them, so I wanted to show you them now. I have 4 prizes at the moment, and depending on how things go and the number of entries and stuff we have, I may or may not add more prizes. We will see how, depends on how things go, but we have 4 for now. And the way I've done it, and I'm quite happy with the way I've done this, is I have a prize, one prize from a dyer whose yarn I used for one of the patterns. So I had 4 patterns in the part 2. Sorry, I should have explained. So Beyond Vanilla part 2 has 4 patterns in it, the same as part 1, and I used 2 different dyers for each pattern, so I knit 2 samples of each. So what I've done is I've got prizes, yarn prizes for each, from a dyer from each of the samples. So I know I used 8 dyers, but I have 4 from each, so I'll probably explain it better when I show you. So for Circus Tonic Handmade, she provided the yarn that I used for the Meadow pattern, and so she also sent an extra skein to use for a giveaway prize, and this is on her Spangled Drongo base. It's in her Revelry Sock 80/20 Super Merino nylon. It's really, really soft yarn, lovely to knit with, and I really love this colorway as well. And so this was one of the yarns that I used for Meadow, so that will be one of the prizes. The second prize is a skein of Q Loco. This is her spun sock in the Rainbow Bright colorway. It is really sort of, and her spun sock is a Superwash Merino Cashmere nylon, so it's a really luxurious blend, and really, really fun bright colors. And I used this yarn for the Riverbend. There we go, Riverbend sock pattern. So her yarn was one of the ones I used for one of those samples. Ooh, open. I'm going to keep this in its packaging. It came in the packaging. And this is from Swatch This Fibre Arts. Okay, Swatch This Fibre Arts with Deanna. And she sent me some yarn that I ended up using for the Staggered Path colorway. Her Crenshaw colorway was the one that I used for that. So she also sent a second skein to use for a giveaway. This is also a Superwash Merino Cashmere nylon base, and the colorway is called Wembley Worried, and it's on her Shelly Fingering base. Really sort of fun pastel colors, really, really fun. And then the last one I have is, I didn't actually have any yarn to give away from, that I had set aside to give away from the last pattern I knit, but I do have this skein from Knitter's Nightmare, which is called Sunset on the Sound. Really, really fun, sort of blues and purples and greys, very, very much my colours, and I had a very hard time choosing between this and the other skein that she sent me. But I used another skein that she'd sent me for the Meadow pattern, the other sample for Meadow, and so this will be the 4th skein I'm giving away for this one. So to say massive thank you to all the dyers who provided yarns that I used in those patterns. A lot of them didn't know they were sending me yarn to use for designs. They just sent me yarn because they wanted me to try the yarn out and review it and just, you know, give it a go basically, and just being nice and sent extra for giveaways. So, and I've talked about this before, when people send me yarn for free, I guess, like if people send me some of their yarn that they've dyed or whatever, I don't feel obligated, but I feel like I want to repay that by using it in a pattern or using it in a design or something, so then I can give back to them in the similar way that they've given to me. And I kind of feel like that's the least I can do with all the lovely yarn that people send me. I feel really spoiled, and I just feel like if I can give back in some way, and that is one way that I can give back to them tangibly, by using, I know for dyers it's really useful for them to have their yarns used in designs so that they can show people that, and so that's what I try to do. So it's kind of my way of giving back. And then, like I said, they usually send extras to give away to you guys, so I kind of felt like this was fitting. So these are the 4 prizes I have for that knit along at the moment. That knit along is running until the 3rd of October, and rules and everything are in the Ravelry group. You can check that out over there. Whew, that's a lot of stuff. I am going to be doing a 8,000 subscriber giveaway. I actually realised now I'm almost at 8,500 subscribers, which is insanity. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to wait, and then I'll show you the price for that one next week, just because I've talked so much already, and I think I'm probably going to get close to boring people. So I will move on. And so yeah, I will probably do the 8,500 subscriber giveaway, and I'll start that next week. So moving on, I just want to talk really quickly about post stitch. I drew the prize winners for that on Wednesday last week, well, actually did it on Thursday because I was so tired and completely forgot on Wednesday when I got back. But so I've already done that. The post stitch has been in touch with everybody. Everyone has already provided addresses and all that, so everyone's packages should be going out. So congratulations to the winners, and I'm really excited to see how your projects turn out, what colorways you end up with, because I don't know what colorways post stitch have gone with Richard De Vries for the yarn boxes, for their subscription boxes. And yeah, so I was talking with the ladies at Post Stitch, and we decided that the patterns aren't going to be released until the 12th of September, because I want to give time for the packages to arrive with the recipients, for everyone who subscribed, before I really sort of release the patterns and ruin the surprise completely. And so as such, I'm going to probably release a video explaining the patterns in more detail, either on the day or the day before the patterns come out, so you guys can get a bit more detail on them, and they will be publicly available to everybody as well. You don't just have to you don't have to have subscribed to Post Stitch. Obviously with Post Stitch you get the yarn and needles and the other accessories that you need to knit the patterns, but you can also purchase the patterns on their own if you wanted to. And Post Stitch are also hosting a knit-along in their group, which I will link to in the show notes and in the episode thread for these patterns. So the thread is already up, and if you do want to take part in that, then you can as well, and there will be prizes and stuff. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. I need to grab a drink, and I'll be back with you in a second. Alright, back again. So we have a Q&A question in the thread this week. There's only one, but it's an interesting one because it's not a problem that I've encountered before myself. I'm going to try and get the laptop so I can show you the picture that's in the question. So this is from Glass Beetle on Ravelry, and she says, "Hi Mina, I have a sock question. I have knit many pairs of socks and always seem to have the same problem. That is, the toe decreases," she knits cuff down, "and graft end, and the grafting end up on the bottom of her toe. She says, I thought maybe I was knitting the foot too short, so I've been knitting the foot longer, and still I'm having the same problem. It is almost as if the top instep of the foot is longer than the bottom." And here is a photo. So she's put a photo to demonstrate the point. I don't know if you can see that clearly or not. So you can see there that the grafting and the toe decreases are moved under her foot essentially. So it's not at the top of her. It's not right on the side, and the grafting is not on the tip of her toes. It's under her toes. And so her question is, it's really multiple questions. She says, "Have you experienced this? I have to admit, I've never experienced that before, so I was surprised when I saw it." And she's asking, is she knitting it too short, and if she adds any more rows to the foot, surely it would be too long, which is what I would think. And so she asks, have I or anyone else dealt with this, and what should she do? So since I've never actually dealt with that before, it's the first time I'm seeing it, and my initial thought would have been that maybe she's knitting the foot too short, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Has anyone else dealt with this problem? So I'm going to put the question out to you guys. What should she do? Do you know what's causing that problem? Do you have a potential solution to that problem? If you do, then please pop along to the episode thread and leave a comment, or you can pop into the Q&A thread and reply to her question directly there as well. I'd really appreciate it, and I'm sure that Glass Beetle will as well. So thank you in advance. Hugo, what are you doing? I have a whole bunch of stuff on my desk, and he's trying to get over this obstacle course of yarn and stuff to get here. Hey? Okay, if you sit there, you can stay. And then moving on to shop news, like I said, I've just started picking up the sewing machine. Started at the sewing machine again. It's going to take me a while to get bags ready, but my hope is I have a whole stack of project bags that have been cut out interfacing ironed on, ready to go. And I was saying to Perry the other day, I was like, I want to get these out the door before we move. That's my goal. I don't know when we're moving, but I don't want to have to take them with me. And to be quite honest, I don't know, depending on where we move to, whether or not I would be able to have an Etsy shop or not. So we will see. I want to get these done and out the door, as it were. So I will be working on those over the next month or so. Hopefully I will have an update maybe at the end of this month, beginning of October, and then maybe another one sometime in November to finish them off, hopefully. Okay, how's that sound? Yeah? Okay, you want to snuggle. Not very snuggly normally, this is very unusual, so I'm making the most of it. Bahrain Middle East life, like I said, I've only been back a week now. I haven't really done much since getting back, but quite frankly, it is stinking hot outside. It is horrible, it is gross, it is muggy, it is humid and hot. It's still in the, well, it's actually dropped since I left. It's low 40s now, centigrade, which is still over 100 Fahrenheit. It's hot still. It was really funny, the last day before I left London, it was really hot in London. There was like the start of another heat wave, and I was complaining to Perry how hot it was. But to be fair, they don't have air conditioning in London, and my parents' car doesn't have air conditioning, so even when you're sat there with the windows down, if you're stuck in traffic and behind glass, it gets very hot. Yes. Hey, something I'm very interesting to you today. But I got back here and it was just so much worse. And I was like, oh, I don't know why was I complaining. I almost forgot what this felt like. Anyway, so that's basically my Middle East life segment for today. It's very hot. Weeks in review, I guess. It's been a couple of weeks since I last posted a podcast. I was talking to my mum before I left. I was giving her some of the socks that I'd knit that I didn't want to take back and that she just wanted. She was saying that she can't wear regular socks with her shoes anymore, that they don't have the same sort of padding, cushioning to them as woolen socks do. So just the regular sort of store-bought socks. She's like, she can't wear them with her shoes anymore, that her feet hurt. And which I found kind of funny. She has, and they have now got like a separate bag that they use for the hand knit socks laundry compared to the rest of the laundry, so the issue with the shrunken socks doesn't happen again. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should, there was an incident where there was a pair of socks I knit for my mum which were hand wash only, and most of the socks that I've knit for my family are machine washable, but those ones were hand wash only, and I had told my parents about it. But somehow they ended up in the wash, and I spotted them on the radiator and they'd felted, and they're not the right size anymore. They're too small. So since then my mum's like, okay, we're just hand washing all the socks. All the socks, we're not going to run that risk again. Which I thought was kind of funny. And but yeah, so apparently my family are now spoilt with the hand knit socks. So even though it was summer, my parents were still wearing their hand knit socks. My dad was working on the house, like they are renovating their house at the moment, so with his work boots he's wearing hand knit socks, and my mum still wears her hand knit socks with her trainers and stuff when she goes to the gym or walking to and from work and stuff like that. So I need to get on and knit my family more socks. Then I had a lot of back pain over the summer, and a lot of people have now since said that, oh, you know, that makes sense now because you're pregnant, blah blah blah. But Hugo is sat in like a really funny position, so no matter what I do, like my head is just right, my chin is right on his head. So yeah, but honestly it's still far too early for the back pain to be pregnancy related. The baby's not far enough along yet. I checked with my doctor, it is not it's not pregnancy related at the moment. This is an old injury. I'm not actually sure if I mentioned it on the podcast or not, but I was hit by a car a few years ago crossing the road. I just moved to Vancouver. I was going to work and I got hit by a car. It wasn't serious, it wasn't it's a long story. I'm not going to go into it now, but basically it wasn't that serious. I got checked out by a paramedic, and then I got up and I walked to work. I finished walking to work. I got into work a little bit late, but it was my third day on the job, and I was like, I can't be late, I can't not go to work. I was obviously still a bit high on the adrenaline. So anyway, I've had some long-lasting issues from that incident. Nothing major. For the most part, it's not been bad. Like the last few, it doesn't really bother me that often. Occasionally it flares up, and it just basically flared up on my flight over from here to London. When I got there, my back was just really bad, and it's been pretty bad most of the summer, to be honest. Like, it's not been particularly great at all. But yeah, like I said, not pregnancy related, it's just an old injury. I did go to see an osteopath whilst I was in the UK. I'd never been to see an osteopath before, so that was an interesting experience as well. One of my friends recommended for me to go to see hers. She's been to see him for years, and she cannot recommend him highly enough, so that was really interesting, and it did help for a while. But I think it's one of those things that I have to go and do more regularly to actually get some long-term benefits out of it. So there is a centre here that does that. There's an osteopath centre here, so I'm looking to go and try that out and see how that goes. So yeah, what else has been going on? There was an outdoor cinema event that I went to with a couple of my friends, and again I posted about this on Instagram. I had a bit of a knitter fail moment, in that I remembered to take all the woolen warm things to wear, like cardigans and shawls and stuff, but I completely forgot to take a pair of socks to put on my feet because I'd worn sandals there and it was going to get cold. So that was a bit of a knitting fail moment. I used my tote bag to cover my feet in the end. Hugo, can you decide where you're going? Come on, get you down. I think he wants to get down, he doesn't want to jump. But that really did my back in as well. Sitting on the floor for 4 hours was not the brightest idea I've ever had. But and that was just a couple of days before my friend's wedding, whose photography I was doing, and I was having a bit of a panic attack about it and worrying about the wedding and whether or not I'd be okay to do the photography and stuff like that, because well, my camera's quite heavy. My SLR camera that I use for like wedding photography and stuff like that I've done in the past, with the lens and everything, it's probably close to 5 kilos in weight, and when I carry that around, by the end of the day, like it really takes it out on my back. And usually if I'm photographing a wedding, I don't really get a chance to sit down until the food. Pretty much on my feet all day. So and that doesn't help the situation either. If I can't sit down and take breaks, then that makes it worse for my back. So I think it was a lot of anxiety as well about anticipating the level of pain I'd be in, and I have to admit it was pretty bad. By the end of the day, by the end of that wedding day, I was in a lot of pain, and because I'm pregnant, I can't take any painkillers or nothing stronger than paracetamol anyway, so I couldn't take my usual ibuprofen or anything like that. So I knew it was just going to be that much worse because I couldn't take any of the usual things I take to cope with the pain. And I never really take anything I never take anything stronger than ibuprofen anyway. I don't really like to, but just knowing I couldn't do that either wasn't helping the situation. But yeah, but Perry was so sweet. A couple of days before my flight back, he called me to say that he'd managed to sort of wrangle some points together or whatever, because he deals with all of like the airline reward schemes and stuff, because he's more of the frequent flyer than I am with work or with the MBA and everything else. Like, he tends to fly more often than I do, so he figures all that stuff out and whatever. So he managed to wrangle points together or whatever and upgrade my flight from London to Dubai to business, because I was flying with Emirates, and then the Dubai to Bahrain one was just regular economy, which was a massive help. And it was so sweet of him to do that, because he knew how much pain I'd been in, how much my back was hurting and this, that, whatever, and I was stupid enough to book myself an overnight flight. That was just my own my problem, not his. But he was really sweet about it, and he upgraded my flight, which turned out to be the best thing, because again, if you followed me on Instagram, you'll have sort of followed the story as it unraveled. It was pretty it was not fun. My flight was delayed from the very beginning. I wasn't sure if I was going to catch my connecting flight. It was so quick. Then I had to run to catch my connecting flight. I was wearing my Birkenstock sandals, so not exactly the best shoes for running in, and my back was hurting anyway, so running wasn't going to help that situation either. I only just caught the connection, but my bags never made it. So I got back to Bahrain, tired, grumpy, hormonal, and without my bags. I was livid at the people at the baggage place, they weren't giving me one straight answer. They kept saying one thing and then saying something else and contradicting themselves, and it was just getting me more and more worked up. And Perry was like, look, just get the receipt, the slip that they give you, you know, with the reference number, whatever, for your bags, and come out and I'll deal with it. I was like, I was really worked up. I was not in a good mood. I got home, slept for 5 hours, woke up feeling slightly better, and then we had to go back to the airport to pick up the bags, and Perry went and dealt with that, thankfully, so I didn't have to. But yeah, I've definitely noticed the hormonal swings happening a lot more in the last few weeks. I think the first time it really hit me was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago now. I was at the hen party with my friends, and we were packing up, getting ready to go, head back to the station to come back up to London, and I don't know what it was. I just sort of like sat down on the stairs and started crying for no reason whatsoever, and everyone was just like, oh my god, are you okay, what happened? Because they all knew I was pregnant. They're like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know, I have no idea why this is happening. Like, I'm not even sad about anything, there's nothing upsetting me, I have literally no idea why I'm crying. And yeah, that's happened a few times. I was watching something yesterday and it reminded me of something, and it wasn't even anything particularly bad, but I again just started crying. So it's happened a few times. It doesn't worry me anymore because I know what it is now, but the first couple of times it happened I was like, I don't understand, why am I crying? But yeah, so that was funny. But otherwise, like I said, I've actually had a pretty easy run of it with the first trimester, to be honest. I've now passed the first trimester. I'm 15 weeks and 3 days, so I'm into my second trimester, got the starts of a little baby bump, and yeah, so I had a pretty good run of it the first trimester. The worst was that 1 week when Perry was in Tel Aviv and I was on my own here. That was by far the worst week, and after that it's just been a lot better. I've had occasional days when I felt a bit nauseous, and it's usually just because I haven't eaten, or I get a headache, and then usually a nap would fix that one. I basically napped every day this summer, at least 2 to 3 hours a day in the afternoons, otherwise I am like that grumpy 5-year-old who hasn't had their sleep. So yeah, I think the naps are actually the hardest thing to get used to, because I love napping, but I'm a terrible napper. I've talked about this again, I've talked about this before on the podcast, in that I'm terrible at waking up from naps. Like, I'm just the grumpiest person for about an hour after I've woken up. I don't want to do anything. I'm super grumpy, I'm super lethargic, and it's just not fun. And I can't do power naps. I can't do that 20-minute nap thing and wake up. It just doesn't work for me. If I nap, I'm asleep for 2 hours at least. So I just went with it. I was like, fine, if I want to sleep, I'll sleep. But so it made doing things over the summer a bit difficult, because I had to plan around making sure I got home in time to have a rest and sleep for a little bit. Otherwise I'd be really grumpy by the end of the night. But anyway, by the end of the trip I was napping less frequently, and since getting back I don't think I've had a nap once yet, so I'm kind of hoping I'm out of that fatigue part of the pregnancy, at least for now. I know it comes back again later, but for now I'm kind of hoping that that's behind me. I'm also definitely noticing the effects of pregnancy brain, and my memory is not as great as it used to be, which is kind of sad, because my memory was always the one thing I could rely on. My memory was always pretty good for most sorts of things. Perry always says that I out-memory him, in that like he'll remember things in a certain way. I'm like, no, that's wrong, it's like this, it was like that. And I remember very specific mundane details about things, which isn't always necessarily useful, but in general it happens. But I was out-memoried by someone the other day. One of my friends at the wedding, her boyfriend came along, and I thought I'd never met her boyfriend before. I'd heard about him a lot, but it just never worked out that I'd met him, so I thought. And then he said, he was like, no, we have met before, we met at this place at this time like 7 years ago, blah blah blah. It was my birthday as well, and he came quite late in the evening, which is probably why I don't remember. And I was like, why do I not remember this? This is the sort of thing I remember. This is the sort of thing I do to other people. This is the sort of thing I bring up, a really old memory from like however many years ago or whatever, and I was just like, you just did to me what I do to other people, and like I feel a little bit sad now because I don't remember this. But and it happened the other day at the mall with Perry as well. Like I was saying things and I just kept saying the wrong things. I was getting my words muddled up and I was just forgetting what I wanted to say and stuff. So I was just like, this is pregnancy brain, isn't it? He was like, yeah. I'm like, this isn't good. He was like, yeah. I'm like, he was like, I was like, I'm really starting to notice it now. And he was like, yeah, it's been happening for the last 2-3 weeks. I just didn't want to say anything. Which was very sweet of him, but at the same time I hadn't realised how bad it was until a few days ago. But yeah, so Perry's left. He left on Friday night. He went to New York, so he's in the US at the moment, and he will be coming back next Friday. So not this coming Friday, the Friday after. He's actually on for 2 weeks this time. He had some classes and I think he's got like a seminar or something next week, but because of the Labor Day weekend it's kind of just pushed everything back a bit more. So yeah, so I'm on my own, which isn't necessarily fun, but it's fine. I'm home at least, so I know what everything is. I'm not feeling as sick as I was, so I'm able to eat fine, which is good. I know my mum's worried about me eating properly, but I'm eating well, it's not a problem. And yeah, and also today's Perry's birthday, so today Perry turns 30, and it's actually kind of sad that he's not here or that I'm not with him. I had originally talked about going, Perry and I talked about originally about me going with him to the US on this trip and being there, but with just the way his class schedule is and the amount of work he has to do and stuff, we just figured he'd end up feeling guilty for not spending time with me. And even though I have loads of friends and stuff over in New York and I'd have plenty to keep me busy, I didn't want him to have to feel worried about me as well. And actually thinking about it since getting back and realizing how tired I was from a 7-hour flight from the UK, I was like, I don't think I'd have managed to get to New York and actually feel okay. I probably would have felt really crap, especially because it would have been only 2 or 3 days after getting back here from London. So it was good. It was good that I didn't go, I think, in the end, even though I really wanted to. But yes, other than that, the boys have been very indifferent to me. This is what you saw today from Hugo is the most attention I've had from either of the two boys since I've been back. It seems it takes podcasting to get them to love me, or at least get Hugo to show me any kind of real affection. They've been very indifferent to me, they've been very standoffish with me. Derek has actually gotten up and left when I've walked into a room or gone up to stroke him. He's not happy with me at all right now. I think he's still a bit cross. The other day he came and snuggled with me in bed, but he was really standoffish with me for the rest of the day, so I kind of feel like that was a slight lapse in judgment from his part, or maybe he was just very hungry. He hasn't even been complaining to be fed in the evenings. Like he just won't complain anymore. He waits until I just feed him whenever, which is kind of sad, but I'm hoping he'll get over that soon. A few people have said that, oh, cats get more cuddly when they find out you're pregnant and stuff like that. Well, I have yet to find that. I have yet to see that happen. Boys are very much not, they're not particularly snuggly cats anyway. I mean, Hugo has started to be a little bit more snuggly in the last few months, and then he'll come and sit on my lap and stuff when I'm knitting, or with Perry he's always been quite snuggly. But Derek's not a snuggly cat. He's not a sit on your lap kind of cat. At best, he'll snuggle next to you. But he is not a snuggly cat. It's just not his nature, which is fine. They don't all have to be the same. but yeah, I tried to play with them the other day with one of their favourite toys. Neither of them were particularly interested, and maybe it was the wrong time of day, but I mean, Derek was being such a lazy bum. He just did not want to get out of his box. Hugo, after a while, eventually went for the mouse. I have a little video clip which I'll put in at the end here of that, but generally speaking they've both been pretty lazy and pretty indifferent towards me, which is, I'm hoping that will change, but I think they're still a bit mad at the fact that I left them for so long. But yeah, anyway, I think I've rambled on enough today. I feel like I've been talking for absolutely ages. I know that this is going to be over an hour long, but I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Thank you so much if you are still watching. If you're still watching at this point, thank you. And yeah, make sure you pop on over to the group, come join the chatter. Like I said, I'm sorry, I know I'm not particularly chatty myself, but the group is generally pretty chatty anyway, and I'm going to try and be better at responding to comments in the episode threads and the chatter threads and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you to everyone who's been watching, and I hope you all have a lovely week. Take care. Bye.
Bye.